poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here. Raja Bell there. Howard Beck in the motherfucking cut. He has a hard out, so that means I had to text Raja, which means he's not happy right now, which means it's going to be a great fucking pod. We are here to preview the 2024 NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. Wow. I'm excited for this one. I don't know how you guys feel about this finals, but I can't fucking wait. I guess I'll just start with this question. Whoever can answer it. Who has the most to gain from winning this NBA Finals? I'll start with Howard.
The most to gain? I mean, when you start with the fact that neither of these teams has won a championship, like everybody literally has equal amount to gain, right? Aside from Kyrie Irving, who won a championship with LeBron several years ago. But like Luka's got plenty to gain. The Jays have plenty to gain. Al Horford, who I think has the record for most playoff games in history without winning a championship, or at least among active players or something like that. They all do. But, we did this in a roundtable that's on the ringer.com today about, legacy, which is always kind of an overwrought term and discussion at this time of year. And like, I get that Tatum and Brown have been anchoring one of the best teams in the league for the last 5-6 years without breaking through and winning it all. But it's mostly because they got there ahead of time, ahead of schedule. They're young. After the series, they will still be young. They will have time. So I'm not that worried about anybody having anything hugely on the line. I don't think this is some defining series for either team necessarily. But if you're Luka, who has been a multiple-time top 5 MVP candidate, third this year, the highest he's finished, and you're 25, and no one expected you to be here, and you could win a championship right now, start the count at age 25, that'd be pretty damn good. And then as I noted in the roundtable that's on the website today, like I actually think legacy-wise, if we have to use that term, it's Kyrie who's got the most to gain, because Kyrie, since winning a championship with LeBron back in 17, has just done nothing but left a trail of chaos behind him everywhere else, except for Dallas, as Logan and I talked about on Friday about how far he's come. But you can't erase all that just by being a good teammate for a year plus and getting to the finals. Like winning a championship, I think would go a long way toward kind of restoring the view of Kyrie that we had 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it well. I'm not great in these conversations. It's not my wheelhouse. But I would agree with everything you said. And then the most poignant part for me was the Kyrie thing. I think while it wouldn't erase, your track record, being a part of something like Dallas has going on right now, seemingly accepting at minimum that you are like 1B, probably the number 2, in a way that you didn't seem to be willing to do kind of in other instances, not having any, at least public hiccups with anything outside of basketball. I think he's the one thing that gets missed is I think he's always been a solid teammate. Like most dudes would tell you that they liked him, but I think that this would go a long way for him. I also would just add, Nico Harrison and Mike Finn and company for having the faith that pairing. We talked about it at length when it wasn't really working initially. It was really clunky. What do you do with that? Having the faith in their vision to stick with it and then execute. They're a good example for me of what I talk about all the time, which is what's your roadmap? Like show me the map, show me how we're going to do it, and then not being like hasty and moving all over the place and straying from the navigation. Like kind of stay in the course, and we're going to execute these moves when they present themselves. And so I would add them to the mix. But I agree with everything, especially the Kyrie part.
I want to stay on Kyrie with you, Raja. What is the biggest difference? Me and Howard talked about this on Friday, just in terms of like his outward leadership with this Dallas Mavericks team. And I don't think we've been able to see in his previous 2 or 3 stops, and in Boston, it seemed like he was talking at the young group. You guys don't know what you guys don't know what you guys are getting into, and it didn't seem like the message was really flowing well when he was a quote unquote leader in Boston, and then we know what happened in Brooklyn. But anecdotally, and also what you've seen on television, what's the biggest difference you've seen in Kyrie from a leadership standpoint from the time where you saw him in Cleveland and you were working close with him to now, where he seems like a guy that this roster is rallying around?
Yeah, well, first of all, in Cleveland, it wasn't his job to really lead. That was LeBron. When you get LeBron on the team, everyone kind of cedes a bit of leadership responsibility. It becomes LeBron's world, right? And we're going to be indoctrinated into his school of winning and his culture, and this is the way we're going to do it. And so, Kyrie was like everyone else in that way. I watched him from afar when he was in places like Boston and Brooklyn. And here's the way I see it. And this is just my opinion on it. I always got the sense when dealing with Kyrie, and I've said this before and I've caught flack before, that he was a good person, a good dude. He treated me as such. He treated my kids and my wife as such. We've never had an issue. He's very intelligent. He's very soulful. And I feel like he was searching for something. When I watched him, it was like he was searching for something, searching for some peace from within, some inner peace, like some familial peace. And I think he found it. And that's what you see when you watch him lead with the Mavs. There's a maturity about him. There's a security about who he is and how he fits in, and what the organization around him needs from him. And I think you can't discount that when you get to a very comfortable place with who you are and what you believe and what your family situation is, and you're not worried about what anyone's saying about it or feeling like there's something missing from you. And I always got that sense. And again, this is just me, but I was around him very closely for a while. Was looking for something, searching for something. What? I don't know. But that's what I get. And that's what comes through to me when I watch him on that team. Just at peace and very comfortable.
Reputationally, what will this do for him, a championship, Howard, league-wide? What do you think it will do?
I mean, league-wide, the thing is, players have always had really high regard for Kyrie. Now, some of them played with him and wouldn't necessarily want to play with him again for all kinds of reasons, but they like him and respect him, and a lot of them very much look up to him, especially the younger players. And just, his skill level's off the charts. His competitive drive is off the charts. Like, I don't think there's any restoring of anything that needs to be done amongst most of his peers. It's more the way that like the broader NBA community looks at him, right? It's us in the media, it's coaches and GMs and other executives and scouts, like other people who are in more of a position to just observe and how people have valued him, right? Again, something we touched on briefly Friday, but Kyrie's value had bottomed out when he was in Brooklyn, and he himself noted it at one point in a press conference on his last media day in Brooklyn about the fact that teams didn't want him. And at the time that the Mavericks traded for him, I mean, think about how little they traded for him over, when like at the time, I think people wondered if they were giving up too much because Dorian Finney-Smith was really important to the Mavericks' success.
I think there's a lot of people that forget the context of the trade when they talk about the fleecing involved. They just forget about what happened beforehand. Like there's not a lot of context when people talk about the fleecing of the Nets in that deal.
It's fair for us to constantly reevaluate trades, but it's also really important for people to remember the context at the moment a trade happened. The context of that moment was Kyrie Irving demanded a trade days before the trade deadline. So the Nets were under the gun and his trade value was zilch. And so to get Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, and a first-round pick, I think that was the whole package.
Me and Raja were asking if Kyrie was going to be in the league in a few years, during the height of his Kyrie-ness.
It was a reasonable question.
Yeah, there was. I mean, to defend us, I mean, if it had continued on the trajectory with the stuff that was going on, I think it was reasonable.
Yeah, this thing that happens now where it's like, oh, everybody owes Kyrie an apology. No one owes Kyrie an apology. We're judging things based on what Kyrie himself had said and done. The teams that got rid of him, that didn't want him around, or, they're all doing it based on what he had said and done in that moment. His value at that time was low because of the things he had said and done. So he evolved. That is to his credit. So if, he should get the praise now. Absolutely. And he earned the criticism back when the criticism came. But it is to his credit that he evolved. Not everybody does, right? We'd all like to think that we're constantly evolving as human beings. We could be reflective and better ourselves. And some do and some don't. And it's never linear. And here it is. Like, Kyrie, to his credit, didn't just rescue his career. I think he has salvaged a lot of his reputation and shown that he is capable of being a great teammate and a great leader. He's not just fitting in; he's a leader there. Mm-hmm. Like that's bigger than just like going and hitching your wagon to one of the greatest players we've ever seen in Luka. He's gone and been a really important presence because like Luka maybe is not geared personality wise to be like that kind of leader, and Kyrie is the one who comes in with the credibility of having won a championship and been to 3 finals. So, all that's to his credit. But real quick though, before I don't know how much more we're going to spend on Kyrie, but I wanted to hit Raj because like you overlapped in Cleveland when you were working in the front office too, but also just speaking as a former player, I'm curious like what you thought when Kyrie forced his way out of there from a standpoint of, to me, I had never seen in my life anybody force their way away from the greatest player of a generation and away from guaranteed success. And I sort of understood it later about Kyrie wanting to, have the room to maybe grow or lead a team and not be in LeBron's shadow. Like LeBron takes up a lot of oxygen. I get that. So there was some understandable part of it, even if it didn't work out the way he hoped. But I still look back and think, man, if you're in this game to win championships, why not stay? So I'm just curious. You were gone from the organization by that point, I think. But like, what did you think at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I too kind of didn't understand it at the time because, I mean, for the foreseeable future there, it was going to be baked in success. And I think LeBron was at the stage, even at that point, where sure, the culture was his and the mentality was his, but you could even see on the court that he was fine with Kyrie being the guy at times. That wasn't ever going to be an issue. So there could have been a pretty seamless kind of passing of the torch in terms of who was going to really carry. So I didn't understand it, but I would just say this. When I talk about Kyrie looking for something and searching for something, that now looking back at it, the journey, all the ups, the downs, the massive mistakes, like all of that was part of what he was supposed to go through, I think. And none of that would have happened for him if he stays there with LeBron in the security of that shadow for a career. And I do feel like his soul was restless. Like he wanted something and he had to go out looking for it. And whether it was packaged and worked out the way that was palatable for the media or not is besides the point. It was his journey and he had to go through it. And I think we've watched him go through it. We've given him the business at times, and at times rightfully so, for some of the things that have happened along that road. But ultimately, he had to go through that. And I want to say this too, because I think it's important. We all think that like you learn to lead by being in a locker room and you get some perspective and you get older and it's going to come natural. And that's not always the way it works. Kyrie Irving's family, like Dredrick Irving was a Boston University great before I got to Boston University. So I had known Dred from like alumni games and stuff like that. He's the head of that household, like a very good dude, strong personality, like holds it down. And he leads a family, right? And so I think Kyrie at this point, as he grew older, as he had a family, he learned to lead a family. And this is kind of like, I don't know if basketball fans want to hear this. This is life. But Howard, you can speak to this. I thought I had that shit figured out. Like I didn't have kids till I was 30. And at 30, you would think I was a grown man. I was not. I had kids. Those kids got old enough to have conversations with me, for me to have them at places, for me to be afraid that the sickness that they had was going to cost me them or something like that. And only then did I grow up and learn to lead. And I think you see him, like, he is a result of a lot of that. Like, that's what he's had going on in his life. I would just add to it that Nico and Mike Finley, and I'm getting a little choked up because Mike was my vet, those two dudes uniquely could take a Kyrie Irving who was already on the trajectory, like with his own family, and say, hey, man, let's sit down. Let's talk this out. Like, Mike Finley was the single best example of a pro that I ever had. I mean that to this day. And I think that the combination of seeing Nico, Mike Finley, and even Jason Kidd, you know, Kyrie's a very heritage-based dude. Like, let's be frank. Like, he's never shied away from any of that. Seeing his dad himself, his sons, his family, in the people that are talking to him on a daily basis, I don't think you can discount that at all.
Yeah, I would agree with
great
that.
Stuff. That's great stuff. Yeah. I mean, Jason Kidd's role in all this, you know, there's another guy who his reputation's been all over the map during the course of his career as a player and coach, but like Jason Kidd's role in all this is a leader who's brought out the best in Luka and Kyrie individually and together, and who's kind of, I think, shown them the way, and who they obviously have absolute faith in, I think is huge. And I'll be the first to say I was skeptical when the Mavericks hired Nico. I know Nico just casually from his shoe days, but like hiring, I'm always skeptical. You guys know this. I'm always Leon Rose, Nico, anybody who comes straight from somewhere else and has never worked in a front office and is hired to the top job, I'm always a little skeptical. And I think Nico had some missteps, and they all do. But there's nothing you can argue with now. And I don't mean it just because they're in the finals. If they'd lost in the last round, I'd still say this. The additions they've made, the front office he's put together, they have done so much right. And, you know, you know Nico and Michael Finley better than I do, obviously, but there's a steadiness and a stability now in that organization that it's just permeating everything else. And so it just, I think it pulls everybody in the right direction.
Yep.
Yeah. Well said, Ron Howard.
Hey, thanks, man.
Good shit. I want to go to the other side of the finals matchup and the Celtics on the Celtics end of the lineup. Wow, I'm just like I'm processing what Rod just said, and it's fucking me up in my transition. That's how good that was. Good job, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man.
No, but I do want to go to the Celtics side of things. And Howard talked about how we just talked about how big of a series this is for Kyrie. But in that same survey that is out now on theringer.com, I talked about how this was a big series. This is probably a legacy series for Tatum and Brown. And I am of the mind at this point, I'm very skeptical of what they're going to do or what they can do in a final series. Probably too much. You're looking at me crazy, Raja. You're looking at me, but
you've been consistent. It's not crazy. You've been consistent with this.
I've been consistent in what I felt. How big of a series is it for them, right? Like Jalen has had a coming of age in the last postseason matchup against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. He was great. Jason, has been steady, but in their biggest moments, I'm just skeptical. How big of a series is this for them reputationally, Raja?
I mean, it's a huge series. I mean, it's a huge opportunity not only to add another championship to the storied legacy of the Boston franchise, but their first. I think bigger picture, though, what I would say is, when I was last on and I talk about Jaylen Brown and we were talking about him still having things to prove individually within this team concept that is the NBA, quest for a championship. When you win that championship together, when you get over that hump, you find that kind of piece that I was talking about potentially where, the pressure that it relieves allows you to kind of get to this Zen space of a tandem, right? Where we're now like, look, we did that. And it doesn't always work out where that brings out the best in people. Don't get me wrong. Like sometimes, you win that championship, and if you don't have good dudes in your locker room, they're like, all right, fuck that. We already did that. Now let's focus on some of these personal goals. You know what I mean? But I think he's got the bread. Like, the bags are secure. Winning the chip gets them to a level of I don't know what the word I want to. It's not invincibility, but like it gets them to this place where they feel like we're untouchable. And the pressure that comes off of you with that, obviously there's a lot that goes into whether you are or not. Like the roster has to continue to be good. We have to stay healthy, so on and so forth. But belief that comes with that, the relief and pressure that is off of you when you achieve that, I don't think that you could sum that up in words. I think it takes them to another place as a duo.
The thing that is, I'm still in the, I need to see their raps to believe them, if that makes sense. And I haven't seen them in this postseason because I just think they haven't really been challenged. And even in the midst of their dominance, there's been some really embarrassing losses and near embarrassing losses at home that have been really curious. So if they're playing and leading a team that is having curious losses to very much inferior opponents, I'm really curious how they're going to do with a more than formidable backcourt with young guys that are just beaming with confidence going into this series in Dallas, right? And then the front court, I'm really curious with that. Howard, there's been no word about Porzingis as of yet, I don't think. I think Bazula has only said he's feeling good. I'm really curious to see what he's going to be because, you and Raja talk about this all the time about how hard it is to insert somebody into a final series. It doesn't matter how good they are or how bad they are. It doesn't matter what their game is. If you insert anybody into a final setting, it can get tricky. Are you confident? Are you on the scale of 1 to 10? How confident are you in his availability and just his ability to be able to change this series?
I mean, I don't think anybody but the Celtics and Porzingis know how confident we should be in his health and availability and what level he can perform at after being out for a month. So, I mean, we'll see in a few days. But like, I have no idea what Porzingis looks like right now. So we can't guess. We'll see at tip-off on Thursday, but Porzingis at full strength in what we saw during his time with the Celtics this year, like he takes them, they are great regardless. They are in the conference or they're in the NBA finals, having not had him for the conference finals or the semifinals. And it was just a couple of games in the first round. They haven't needed him. That's how good they are, that they haven't even needed him. Unless people think, well, he's just like some ancillary player. And he's a really gifted player. Like, yeah, he's had an up and down career, but like, my God, if you saw what Porzingis was doing with the Celtics this year, the dimensions he adds at both ends of the court, the ability for them to play 5 out, the ability for him to pull opposing centers away from the paint and keep it open. His 3-point shooting, obviously, occasionally a little bit off the dribble. You wouldn't want a lot of that. But like Porzingis could do some things. And like, I think he takes the Celtics from a great team that I think could win the championship even without him to a team that, from people I talked to around the league, they're saying like, as long as he's there, they should be heavily favored. And it's not out of disrespect to the Mavericks at all. It's just the Celtics, the combination of the continuity they've had that core group together for several years. The fact that Derek White and Drew Holiday are two of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both really good perimeter defenders themselves, all the versatility they have. Horford and Porzingis either side by side or Horford as the, more or less small ball 5. Like, they've just got so many ways to configure themselves and to beat you. So Porzingis puts it over the top, but I like, who knows, who knows how to handicap that given that we haven't seen him play in a month.
What do you think, Raja? Like from a player's perspective, inserting a guy with that injury into this big a stage, how are you concerned? What is your concern level going into this? You think he'll be ready for game one? How do you feel about his availability and his ability to be good in this series?
Yeah, well,
or also how he competes against Lively and Gafford too, because like that's no slouch either. They have shown how great they can be defensively in spurts.
What I don't know the severity of the calf injury. By the time that he's missed, it would suggest that it was a pretty good strain / tear of his calf. I'm reading tea leaves, and by the leaked possibility of him playing the later games of the last series, that would suggest to me that he was really close, like probably didn't want to have to use him, but could like break glass in case of emergency then. So with the time off now, I'm going to say he's fine. Yeah. And I wouldn't have any reservation about playing him and throwing him in there. Obviously I'm going to watch to see, if we're missing a beat because we've been playing well without him. So that's a thing, right? Like he raises our ceiling for sure, but I don't want it to cost us tremendously. Like I'll let him play through some stuff and we have to manage that. We want him we know we're better with him, but I wouldn't be afraid to play him. And I think he is, in that pick and roll world that Dallas likes to live a lot, his length, his ability to protect the rim, I think becomes, super valuable against a team like the Mavericks and Lively and Gafford. Every inch of wingspan you can gain to make that pass a difficult pass on that drop coverage, if that's what you're in that lob, or every inch of wingspan you gain if that big is going to fake. And when Luka picks it up, try to recover and get his hand up around the rim to deter the dunk, I think becomes, invaluable. So, having him out there in that way is critical. I would just add to kind of what Howard was saying. If you told me you had Kyrie Irving and made me make a list of people who I would want to guard him, not that anyone is actually going to like really stop a Kyrie over the course of a series. Like you don't. I've said this before. You don't stop guys like that. You just hope to make them have to work really hard and take shots that would lower their percentage. But put both of Boston's guards on the list that I would compile. Like I might start with Drew Holiday. No bullshit. Like he's that good of a defensive player. So, but Derek White would be on the list too. And then if you said to me, give me guys that ideally, like you'd want to guard Luka. Like I definitely have Jaylen Brown on the list. I think I could make an argument for Tatum too. I think there are more of those wing guys out there that can really defend.
The tough part about that though, Ra, is it's like what happened with Anthony Edwards in last series. You don't want to put your top wing on the other top wing if you're
but
do you want to do
here's the difference though. Edwards is 6'3.5", giving up 4.5 inches and I don't know 30 pounds to Luka. Neither one of those dudes is going to have that particular problem. They'll give up some weight, but they're not giving up that amount of like size. Where
you don't want them to. No, but what I'm saying is you don't want them to like. You don't want to tire Jaylen Brown out.
No, but here this all goes into that, right? This goes into that. Like the amount of weight and size you have on me is a direct correlation to how much fucking output I have to put out to stop you. So like people ask me who the hardest person to guard was. It was fucking Carmelo.
Everyone says Carmelo. Everyone fucking says Carmelo.
He was too big and too heavy for my frame.
Yeah.
So like it took too much out of me to have to do that. And I don't think Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown would have that problem. And here's the other part. There are two of them. There's one of Ant. So like, no, it's too much offense, for you to give up to have Ant tired. But, in theory, I got two dynamic scorers from the wing. Only one of them is going to be tasked with guarding Luka, or I'll split the time. So I'm in a win either way if I'm Boston, as compared to like Anthony Edwards and Minnesota.
Yeah. Let's go back to Dallas pretty quickly. I've been meaning to bring this up, the subject of Luka. And first of all, I just want to say to anybody that got smoke for Howard, fuck you. For your takes.
What happened?
They've been trying to get at fucking Howard, bro.
Hey, put me in the loop. I don't know.
You want me to tag you in?
We don't need to go over that here. That's not fun.
Well, hey. All I'm going to say is fuck him.
But thank you, Logan.
All I'm going to say is fuck him. But anyway. anyways, I'll just say it. So the part of the Luka, I wanted to ask about this in terms of his reputation, right? Because Howard had put out a piece a few weeks ago that was rooted in fact and numbers, talking about how basically, and this is something that me and Raja have talked about on this podcast in the past, how Luka is a great scorer and a great player, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily lead to winning those gaudy stats. We have talked about that at length on this particular program, and it's borne out with the numbers, and you did a great job of writing about that. We don't have to get into the receipts or what everybody else was saying about it, but we could, other than to say, fuck them. But I want to ask the question of what is this series like for Luka's reputation because of that, right? Because no matter what the numbers suggest, if he wins the finals, he could say, well, fuck you and your numbers, right? What does this series do for the reputation of Luka as a 25-year-old? He seems like the guy that is similar to how we bestowed this reputation on the Giannis, this guy that is so good that should be able to win multiple titles just for the sake of him being there, right? Like, I call it like the Dan Marino syndrome, where this guy is so talented and should be there. And Dan Marino didn't win a title. Giannis has. But the expectation that they should win these multiple titles. What would this do? I'll start with Howard, and then I'll go to Raja. But what will this do for the reputation of one Luka Dončić on this scale?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Luka is, as soon as you enter the discussion of best player in the league, among the best players in the league earlier in his career, MVP candidate, top MVP candidate, right? Because there's a difference between being like a guy who gets a 4th or 5th place vote and a guy who's like seriously consideration at the top of the ballot. And this year was by far the most consideration he's gotten to be at the top, and the most he's earned that conversation too. As soon as you break into that discussion, everything else shoots up. All the expectations shoot up. It was there for Jokic. It was there for Giannis. It was there for LeBron going all the way back. Oh, like this guy's supposed to be a generational talent. Oh, look. Oh, he leads the Cavaliers to 60 plus wins every year, and they can't break through. They get swept by the Spurs in the finals.
It was there
for Jordan. It was there for Kobe. It was there for Shaq, especially after he got swept in the finals. This is everybody. And unfortunately, all right, I'm not going to go there. There are probably. All right, fine, I'm going there.
Don't stall him out. Fuck him. Don't stall him out. Let's go.
There are too many people who have been watching this league for 5 minutes who have no sense of history and no idea that Michael, Kobe, Shaq, Akeem, everybody, LeBron, Steph, everybody who has ever who has been so great that we proclaimed them the best fill in the blank or among the best ever to fill in the blank.
I mean, we're seeing the other side of that with KD this year, right? Where we're like, okay, you were supposed to be this great, and now that you've left the Warriors, now you're on the downward. We're having these. If you're of an ilk, you are going to get this type of criticism.
Because that's what comes with it. That the greats understand that too. They understand it better than you, the fans, do, who are constantly caping for your guy, who are so concerned for him. They aren't nearly as fragile as you, the fans, are. Trust me, guys. They're not as fragile as you are. Save it. They don't need you caping. Really. Throw away the capes. Burn them. They're kind of little out of fashion at this stage in 2024. But that's the thing. Like, this is the thing you go through. And by the way, I'm not justifying all of it either. There's some like really stupid criticism that sometimes comes with this. Like, how come this guy hasn't won this yet or this guy? It takes time. We all know that. But it is understood that is how sports conversation, sports debate goes. The second you are one of the greatest in this moment, or maybe one of the greatest of all time, okay, what are you going to do with it? And so for Luka, I mean, shit, the dude's only 25 years old, but he's been in the league since he was, 19 or whatever. And so the more you, year to year, keep progressing and putting up these incredible stats and these big shots and these big moments, then it's like, okay, that's cool, but where's it going? Where is it going to take you and your team? And so those questions are fair. And then there was just the fact, real quick, Logan alluded to my story. It was just about the fact that his box score numbers and the eye test of Luka scream all-time great, which he is, which the story said in multiple places. But there's a disconnect between that and his on-off stats over the last several years. But that also, as the story noted, started to change in the middle of this season. And it does have at least something to do with not just a changing of supporting cast and trades they made and all that. Your on-off is a lot about you individually and the impact you make. And the stat guys will tell you that. But Luka changed some things. And he's been more attentive defensively. He has trusted Kyrie and the rest of his teammates more than he did in the past. People who watch this with a much closer eye than I do, and who I talked to for the story, said, here are all the adjustments he has made. Here how he has gotten better. And that's part of growth. That's just part of maturing as a star.
Yeah. I mean, I would follow up with he is 25. People, what people don't realize is like the journey that is a young star coming into the NBA and figuring out how to win as the number one has so many different factors in that. And you would have to add, coming to a new country, fighting a language barrier. Like there are a lot of things that go into that, man. Like the cultural, differences, and they're not excuses, but there are reasons why it takes people the time it takes them to figure out how to win, and outside of putting the pieces around them to ultimately complement, their skill set, right? And so when you are that good, 100%. People have the right to ask the question about, hey, man, like, it's brilliant numbers, but when are they going to lead to winning? That's what we do. I would say for me, watching Luka this year, you can see the defense for sure. You can and it's fractional. I mean, it's crazy, when you coach and you try to explain this to people that don't typically put a lot of stock in that side of the court. I don't need you to be Dennis Rodman or Bruce Bowen. I don't need you to do that. I just need you to give me an honest effort. I think the biggest thing for me is trust. The trust in Kyrie. The trust.
Yeah. Okay, hold on a second. To be the average defender that he is.
There you go. Fine.
Let the record reflect that Logan has issued a correction.
It's a very interesting thing watching this up close and personal. The like real recognizes real. I mean, we're all NBA players, but those dudes who can do anything with the ball, get whatever they want, whenever they want it, score despite what you're trying to do to them defensively, they don't have a lot of peers in that regard. They have a lot of peers in that we have all made the NBA and we're all really, really good players. But it's almost a connection like from across the room when you look at somebody and you say, okay, my boy, I see you. Like that's how they do when they see their peer, the other dude who can do that. And Luka would trust me to do certain things as a young, in my prime player. But that trust caps out once I get those certain things done. He doesn't trust me in other situations. And those are the situations that ultimately help you win championships, advance you in the playoffs. So having someone that he could look over and be like, yes, no, I know that if I give this ball up, something good can still come out of it because I have an equal creator with me. I think that was huge. I think that was, amongst a bunch of things that he changed, I think that was one of the biggest things about the Mavs this year is that trust that Luka knows, hey, man, we will get something good if I don't have this ball in my hand because he'll get it for us.
It's, I am really curious to see, because we'll talk about predictions in a second, especially for Howard. I can't wait to hear his prediction. But
they already made me do it on the website, so I might as well repeat it here.
I'm just curious to see how Luka plays in this type of environment, because it seems like the environment we've always kind of wanted him to play in, just because of how great he is. To see how Boston defends him and if that's going to matter, because Luka, his game is a lot like Dirk Nowitzki's in a way of just like he plays at his own speed. And the closeout game in Minnesota, we haven't talked about this, I don't think, with Raja yet, but just the sheer fact that he was getting to every single spot he wanted, that you knew he was in the bag where me and Roger talk about all the time, where it doesn't matter what you do. I know all of your moves, and you know that I know all of your moves, and I can't stop you for shit. That was the mode that Luka was in that closeout game in Minneapolis. And I'm curious to see if he can get to that level with this level of defense, with this level of wing defenders, this level of scheme, right? You know, and this is this is also a big series for Joe Mazzulla, right? This is a huge series for the tactfully how he does, right? And what kind of moves he makes. I'm really curious to see how Luka's defended, how the Celtics go about this series. It's going to be interesting to see. Let's get to predictions really quickly. Howard, who you picking in the series and how many games?
Before I get to it, I just kind of want to note one bit of additional historical perspective here. This one for our young friend Logan Murdock here. And one you should actually know because we just alluded to this on the Friday show. But before you dismiss the Celtics because they had a bad loss here or there in the playoffs, let's not forget the championship run that you referred to on the Friday podcast that you have a great VHS of with me in my old goatee and big ass glasses and my
grunge era Howard Beck.
It ain't pretty. I don't recommend it. I just want to point that out because that season, Shaq and Kobe's first year of winning a championship, they won 67 games in the regular season. And then every round of the playoffs was a freaking heart attack. Best of 5 series in the first round back then, and they had to go 5 to beat the Kings, who were an 8th seed. They were playing with fire. They crushed them in game 5, but it was 2-2. They could have lost the series. And then the Suns series, which we talked about because of Jason Kidd's platinum blonde hair at the time. The Lakers were up 3-0 in that series and then got the living shit kicked out of them in game 4. It goes down as a 19-point loss, but it was not that close. I think they were down by 30 at some point. It happens. Teams play with fire. Teams let their guard down. Great teams sometimes, have a moment or two along the way. So nothing I've seen from the Celtics so far necessarily makes me think they're going to face plant on this. They've got more talent. They've got more depth. We were asked in that same roundtable today on the ringer.com about which pairing would you want? Which duo do you want? I hated the having to answer that. All due respect to our editors, that was painful. Trying to they're both great, but they're different. The Celtics have more around their core too, and they've been around longer. So I said Celtics in 6 on the site. I will stick with Celtics in 6.
Also, as a rebuttal to what you said, and everything you said is correct, and I watched all of that on the VHS in 2000, and I will say, and you know this because you were there, a lot of the pundits then had to believe it when they saw it out of the Lakers, and they delivered. Sure. So that's what I'm at. I'm with the Celtics. I am big believe it when I see it energy, and if they come of age in this stage, they're supposed to, and then I'll applaud them. But as of right now, I don't believe they're raps. So with that being said, I picked the Mavericks in 6. And I'm not going to be scared like I was last round. I'm not going to be pushed off my plank. I believe in the Mavericks' top 2 players at this point more than I believe in the Celtics' top 2 players at this point. And that is a reflection of my prediction. And that's where I'm going with. Roger, who do you have?
Well, this weekend, not more than 48 hours ago, I was saying I had Dallas. For a lot of the reasons you just kind of touched on, Logan. Luka, Kyrie, I just believe. But I think the more that I've thought about it over the weekend, I am going to go Boston. And I'll say in 7. And I don't think that the gap is going to be that wide that wide between the top hitters on both teams, but I do think that some of the auxiliary pieces, some of the stability that has been the Boston team, they've been here for the most part, they've been knocking at the door. I think they're further along the road of of the build process. I think I'm going to trust some of that more in a series that I could really see going either way. And so I'm going to take Boston in 7.
Really, man? It's only me and Isaac, my editor. It's only us that are, and the whole company that's out here picking the Mavericks. I see you, Isaac. I just want to say that I see you. All right,
they're taking big swings, bro.
We had Raja on our side, and then Raja switched sides. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Wow.
Raja, real quick before we get to, are we doing mailbag? We're probably doing a mailbag.
We're gonna do a mailbag.
All right, real quick, Raja. The year you go to the finals with the Sixers in 2001 to face those same Lakers. I'm always curious about the nerves part of it. You were young. You were like 24, 25 or whatever.
Yeah, I was really, probably 23, 22.
And there were veterans on that team, but like nobody'd been to the finals before, I don't think. So like, how much is the nerves a factor? And does it go after game one, or is it like, does this whole thing, or are you just walking in there with like your eyes bugged out? Because I'm thinking about like, it's the first time for most of the Mavericks, and they got a rookie in Lively. They got young guys like Hardy and Green, who they've had some nice bench performances from, and maybe by now they're fine. But like, I don't know. I'm curious what the pressure, nerves, spotlight, all of us annoying media around, all that shit.
Yeah, it will affect some of them for sure. That Howard, you know this. Like the media scrum that is the Western Conference or Eastern Conference finals pales in comparison to what the finals is going to be. Like the amount of people pulling on you, the amount of people you see, different countries that cover it, like it's going to be bananas. And leading up to it, I was nervous, but not in like I think I was more just really, really excited more than I was nervous. So that can play itself out though, just like being nervous, right? Because you have too much anxiety, too much energy, too much like anticipation of what's going to happen, and then you've exerted too much energy and now you're flat. So like controlling that emotion is going to be there'll be some people that get caught up in it for sure.
All right. Katie Kermah out of the motherfucking cut once more. We have 8 minutes because Howard has a hard out, so we have time for one, maybe 2 questions. What's going on?
You guys can always answer more without me.
We can always answer more without you.
No, we need you, Howard. Come on, man. Stop.
Yeah, bro. What the fuck? It's called a motherfucking mailbag because you're Howard motherfucking bag. It's your segment. Kerm, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys?
Hello,
first
bud.
question is from Dan. It says motherfucking Mondays. Oh shit, he's from the UK again.
Let's get it.
You picked that shit on purpose, bro. It's all you acting like you ain't know that.
There's another reason. We're gonna get to why I also picked this. Right. Yo, real ones, Dan here. What's up, Daddy Cum, Raja, Logan, and Howard motherfucking Beck? Shout out from UK. Thanks for years of incredible content. Love everything you guys put out there. Love to all the real ones. Should the T-Wolves have traded away Cat instead of D'Lo? Y'all were saying they need a younger PG to pair with Ant that can create some offense. D'Lo has shown he can... D'Lo is not the guy.
No.
D'Lo has shown he can play more off ball and also create. Again, love all you do, real ones. All go subscribe on all platforms. Spread the love on all socials. All the shits. Bye.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we have enough time for a second question because the answer is absolutely fucking not. They should not have traded Cat over D'Angelo Russell.
That was incredible, Kerb. Incredible email, incredible reading.
Yeah, that was just well done.
Good
all
job, buddy.
All right, you guys want one more? Okay,
Yeah, one more. That's pretty easy one.
This one's Alex from Alex. He says NBA. The title is NBA format change, Premier League football model. Hey, Kerm, Howard, Raja, and Logan. Jesus, it seems like the NBA has started to take pages from the English Football League with events such as an in-season tournament similar to the FA Cup. With the never-ending rumblings of how to modify the NBA schedule to be more engaging from beginning to end, potentially even modifying the length, how do you feel about the following format that I've conjured up? The NBA would follow a Premier League football model, top 20 to 25 teams in the NBA Premier League, with the rest in the second-tier league with the NBA G League, with relegation and promotion each season. There would be fewer games, roughly 2 games a week for 30 to 35 weeks, putting more value on each game and creating more regular viewership. No playoffs, Instead, following a points model where the team on the top of the table would be the champions and the aforementioned relegation for the bottom teams. Thoughts? Sorry, guys. Not the best email. Now, once I finished it, not the best email. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the email, but
it's because he didn't call you Daddy Kerm. That's why you didn't know. Really,
the bar has been raised. No, yeah, I'm out. I mean, I can appreciate the soccer model. I really like the English Premier League, but like, I can't even wrap my mind around that as for the NBA.
It lost me at no playoffs.
Bright enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, relegation, like there's so many business considerations and the value of franchises that people have paid billions of dollars for. Like, that ain't happening in the NBA. That ain't happening in the
Take
US.
your ass to Sioux Falls as a whole organization. Just go there because you suck.
I love
not
the
gonna
idea.
happen.
I mean, it's fun to talk about, like, oh, relegate the Wizards. Like, that's fun to talk, but like, come on, that's fantasy land.
Wait, one more. We got one more, Kerm.
One more. Okay. Last one. It is.
Can't
Get
wait
an
for Kerm to
accent.
have to do like I want a Russian accent. Or
I don't know about that one. I don't know.
That's straight at Wild Waters.
Next one. Last question is from Murr. Questions from Cleveland. What up, Kerm and crew? Yeah, Kerm and crew.
Wow.
I've been listening for about a year.
This is wild. Wow.
They know who the star of this show is.
I'm just reading what's said, dog. I'm just reading what's said.
Oh, okay. This is the guy that picks all of our questions.
Say, you're not picking them, you're just reading them, right?
I'm just reading them at random. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You're reading them at random, and we have Kerm and crew and Daddy Kerm on the two of the three ones that you just read. Go ahead.
Been listening for about a year. I'm a delivery driver by day, artist by night, and y'all's podcast gives me something fresh to listen to during the day as I take a break from music. I appreciate y'all for doing what you do. Keep it real. We're skipping that. Anyways, question for everyone, including Kerm, since he's an LA guy. That's crazy. I didn't know. And he's cool. And particularly curious on Raj's take here, since he spent time in Cleveland. What do y'all think we should do in Cleveland? He's from Cleveland, I should mention. Okay. What do y'all think we should do in Cleveland? I know there's been talking about splitting up Garland and Mitchell and Mobley and Allen. I like them, and I think they've been plagued by injuries and shit, blah, blah, blah. What else would you bring if you were the GM? Also, he mentions like LeBron going on a farewell tour with Cleveland. It's not happening, bro. Give it up. But answer the specific question of what you think Cleveland should do.
Yeah, I don't really know that I would keep that whole core together. Like I personally, like Garland, I could let go. I would like to keep, the rest of that together and then add some pieces, looking for dynamic wing play, maybe a general to tie it all together, something like that. But sorry, dude, like I don't follow Cleveland like that. But from that four, Mobley, Allen, I'd probably let Garland go if I could, see what I could get for that. I want a dynamic wing to kind of pair with some of that. Like a wing that two-way guy that can just kind of go.
Well, there you have it, and we got to go because Howard has to go. Thank you for everything.
You guys can carry on without me. You don't. No.
This is your show too. Yeah. That's been a great edition of Motherfucking Mondays with Howard motherfucking Beck and Raja Bell, and obviously Kickity Kerm out of the motherfucking cut. We will see you guys on Friday. Talk to you soon. All the shits. Bye.